What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers haunted Father Brown's. Dreams of Father Brown investigation? Hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Whispers, haunting Father Brown's dreams. They say that the past has a way of clawing back into the present. But nothing could have prepared Father Brown for the chilling encounter he was about to face. The kind of darkness that grips the soul with an iron fist and makes you question the very fabric of your reality. As he lay asleep in his modest rectory, the silence was shattered by a whisper he had never expected to hear. "They're coming for you, Father." It all began with an unsettling disappearance in the quaint little village of St. Mary's. Mysterious tales had surfaced, each stranger than the last, revolving around a once revered scholar turned hermit named Victor Noble, who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but cryptic notes and the lingering scent of fear. Local rumors whispered of dark practices and lost knowledge, legends that danced like flickering shadows in the back alleys of the villagers' minds. Everyone believed Father Brown could solve this enigma. After all, his reputation as a detective of the unseen was well known. But what lay ahead was a convoluted web of lies that would unravel the very essence of trust among those he held dear. As Father Brown ventured deeper into the mystery, he stumbled upon Victor's dilapidated cottage, a place where time seemed to have forgotten its existence. The air thickened as he crossed the threshold, eerie echoes encapsulated in dim light and dust. A series of mismatched journals lay scattered across the floor, filled with manic scribbles, a relentless loop of despair and confusion. What resonated most strikingly was the phrase, "The boundaries of the mind can create worlds of torment," repeated over and over. Each word morphed the image of Victor from a mere figure of curiosity into a complex portrait rife with psychological turmoil. But what could a humble priest possibly understand about the deep labyrinths of the human psyche? The darker the secret he uncovered, the more it tangled itself into a complex, almost unsolvable riddle. Was Victor a victim of his own mind, or had he willingly tread the path of madness? As the echoes of Whispers grew louder, Father Brown felt the burden of a shadow latching onto him, a connection to Victor that sent tremors of apprehension through him. Every conversation he had with the villagers, every prick of their nervous laughter, seemed steeped in heavy undercurrents, a community willing to turn a blind eye rather than confront the catastrophic reality unfolding around them. Why are they afraid? He pondered. What truths are they hiding? It wasn't until he uncovered the last of the journals hidden behind a loose floorboard that the first big reveal jolted him like a slap in the face. The pages held the names of every villager interwoven with grotesque illustrations depicting their secrets. Chief among them was a drawing that closely resembled Father Brown himself. The realization hit him like a hammer. Victor's decline was not born of solitude, but of unseen enemies, masquerading as friends. What were they hiding from him? Did they fear the exposure of their own sins, or was it Father Brown himself they distrust? Yet each conspiracy drew him further into a gnawing chaos, one that distorted the line between right and wrong. Just when Father Brown thought he had begun to piece together the tangled threads of the intertwining lives in St. Mary's, the tight grip of the mystery twisted violently in his hands. A soft knock echoed through the air, drawing him back. To the present, a local villager, pale and shaking, breathless with urgency. "Father, you must run," she implored. "He knows you're here. They're watching, waiting." As the ominous shadows of doubt swirled, the chilling question lingered like a ghost. Was he safer outside those walls? Or did the threat lie deeper within the community he served? The viewer is now left utterly breathless, caught in the thrall of multiple forces that seem determined to pull Father Brown far away from the truth. Every brush of mystery felt like a knife's edge, and he stared into abyssal darkness that birthed more questions than answers. Ultimately, as sunlight dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that crept through every crevice, Father Brown stood there, haunted by what he now knew, but paralyzed by the uncertainty of who he could truly trust. "I know who did it," he murmured almost to himself, his voice echoing through empty halls. "But the truth will never be told." And just like that, the screen fades to black, leaving the viewer teetering on the edge of a precipice where suspense and disbelief collide, questions spinning relentlessly in their minds. Whispers linger, truths are buried, and in the fragile silence, something monstrous stirs. Will you dare to dive deeper, or will the crossroads of fear and curiosity hold you captive? What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today, and where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 2. Secrets lurking in shadowy corners. In a dimly lit room filled with whispers, Father Brown discovered a truth so horrifying that it could unravel a lifetime of deception. A truth buried so deep that even the shadows quivered in fear of its exposure. The air thickened around him, laden with secrets that seemed to gnaw relentlessly at the edges of his sanity. As he stepped further into this labyrinth of lies, it became painfully clear that every familiar face concealed a sinister motive, and every seemingly insignificant clue could morph into the very essence of malevolence, blurring the lines between friend and foe. At the heart of this enigma lay a case that defied logic. A beloved community figure had vanished without a trace, his disappearance sending shockwaves rippling through the town. But what was more disturbing than the mystery itself was the palpable tension among those closest to him. Paranoia hung in the air, twisting the most innocent of gestures into treacherous acts. Each interaction seemed laden with unspoken accusations. Was it a crime of passion, a revenge plot gone awry, or was the truth even darker, hinting at long-buried grudges that refused to die? As Father Brown delved deeper, he could feel the unsettling whispers of the townsfolk coiling around him, weaving a tapestry of despair and distrust. And just when the thread started to unravel, he stumbled upon an unsettling piece of evidence, a journal inscribed with cryptic entries and sinister doodles that seemed to pulsate with dread. Initially, it appeared to be the ramblings of a disturbed mind, desperately clawing for attention from hidden corners of agony. But as Father Brown deciphered its chilling content, he became entangled in murky recollections of past tragedies and unspeakable acts that had never been laid to rest. The deeper he went, the more he realized that the journal was a map, not just of events, but of psychological warfare, a gateway to a darkness that threatened to engulf everyone involved. Then came the first big reveal that shook Father Brown to his core and left viewers gasping. The entries hinted that the missing man had uncovered a web of corruption, festering beneath the surface of the community, a corruption linked to the very people who now searched for him, their public faces painted with concern, but masking something far more malign. Each name was a clue, each relationship a potential betrayal, and with every layer peeled back, the certainty of anyone's innocence blurred into obscurity. What had been a simple case of a missing person spiraled into an elaborate conspiracy that threatened to dismantle the fabric of the town itself, leaving Father Brown reeling and viewers questioning the very definitions of loyalty and trust. As the plot thickened, an unsettling feeling crept into the narrative, a fear that even the most innocuous characters had secrets lurking just beyond what the eye could see. Who among them truly cared for the missing man? Did they even want him found? Chesterton Brown, his mind racing, was forced to confront an unsettling truth. Each solution only begot new mysteries, and trust became a commodity too precious to buy. He found himself in a slow spiral of obsession, tethering him closer to the heart of a maddening riddle that no one seemed eager to solve. He turned to the journal again, trying to piece together a semblance of clarity, only to realize that every answer spawned a dozen more questions. The tension reached a fever pitch when Father Brown uncovered another thread, an anonymous letter hinting that the key to understanding the entire ordeal rested in the hands of a certain local historian, one known for her esoteric knowledge of the town's dark past. As Father Brown made his way to her door, the ominous weight of the unfolding narrative was almost too much to bear. The historian, cloaked in mystery and shadows, would be the final piece of the puzzle. But what truths had she cultivated in her hidden alcove? Would she unlock the door to salvation or lead him further into the abyss of despair? And just as Father Brown reached for the doorknob, an unthinkable twist jolted through him like a shockwave. The historian had vanished weeks before, and all that remained was a cryptic inscription on her door. "I know who did it, but the truth will never be told." Confusion twisted into frustration, and once again, Father Brown was left standing at the edge of an unsolved mystery, grappling with secrets that were never meant to see the light of day. With every corner he turned, he felt another reality fracturing. Who could he trust now? His mind flooded with thoughts that seemed to spiral infinitely, each fraught with the weight of unanswered questions. As viewers are taken on this spiraling journey of confusion and revelation, the screen fades to black, just as Father Brown clenches his fists in determination, whispering into the void, "I know who did it." But will we ever truly understand why? The unsettling silence looms, a chilling reminder that sometimes truth treads too close to fear, a fear that leaves echoes in the mind long after the last question goes unanswered. What force operates in the shadows, and how far do the roots of this deception run? As you ponder these questions, be warned. Curiosity may not merely kill the cat, it could unleash a chaos that will leave you breathless, desperate for the answers lurking just out of reach. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation. Hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 3. A Sinister Message from Beyond. When the clock struck midnight and the cell phone lit up with the chilling message, a cryptic warning seemed to echo through the lonely halls. Your time is running out. Just moments before, David McAllister had been savoring the quiet solitude of his ancestral home, oblivious to the unfolding doom that would shake the very foundations of his reality. Little did he know, a dark force was pulling the strings, and the sinister message was only the beginning. Join me as we unravel this mystery, where every twist reveals not just secrets, but also sends shivers down your spine, ensuring you'll question everything, especially your own sanity. The mystery began on that fateful night, when David, a historian with a passion for unearthing the past, stumbled upon an ancient manuscript hidden behind dusty tomes in the library of his old estate. It didn't take long for him to realize that this wasn't just any old book. It was a macabre chronicle of the mansion's previous owners, detailing their descent into madness and despair. With each line, a palpable sense of dread enveloped the air, as if the very walls were whispering secrets long kept buried. But the most disturbing entry didn't speak of the cursed lineage. Instead, it contained an eerie prophecy, suggesting that the next heir to the estate would meet a tragic fate unless they could decode the hidden message, intertwining their lives with dark forces from beyond the grave. The stakes were high, and the cluttered pieces of history began to dance into a disorienting whirlwind of uncertainty. As the days progressed, David's obsession with the manuscript grew, to the point where he lost sleep and sanity. His once mundane life spiraled into chaos. Then began the dreams, harrowing visions that clawed at his subconscious. Shadows of the past haunted him during waking hours, whispering ominously, and when he finally deciphered the first clue, it sent his heart racing. Left desperately reeling, he uncovered a forgotten room in the mansion, sealed by time and secrets. Inside lay artifacts that seemed to pulse with malevolence, and chillingly, it appeared someone had been there before him, laying traps intertwined with ghastly messages. David's initial fear turned into sheer terror as he realized not only was he being watched, but someone or something was orchestrating a grim game of survival. The twists grew more convoluted. Just as David sought solace in the tangible, he discovered that another text existed, one that revealed the existence of a family member long thought deceased. This hidden relative had re-emerged, albeit under the proverbial dark cloak of anonymity, and appeared to possess knowledge that David desperately needed. But every answer unearthed only deepened the enigma. The shadows of doubt began to cloud his mind, intertwining stale family loyalties with treachery. Who could he trust? The foundation of his very existence, balanced precariously on the knife edge of betrayal. The first big reveal shattered whatever shreds of comfort remained. In a startling encounter, David learned the truth about his long-lost relative, a man named Victor, who had become an unwilling pawn in a sinister play. Victim or villain? The lines blurred as Victor's true motives became suspect, exposing David to a darkness he couldn't fathom. With obscure messages echoing from the family's tortured past, a hideous cycle was unveiled. Each connection made it clear that sacrifices had been the family's legacy, a tradition masked by generations of silence. David was no longer simply fighting for his life. He was entangled in a web of familial sins, and the thread grew taut with every heartbeat. Would he be the next to join them, rendered powerless by the very blood that coursed through his veins. As the night stretched on, David reached a breaking point, battling against an overwhelming tide of confusion. The clock continued its incessant ticking, taunting him as he pieced together the clues with no safe harbor in sight. The final stroke came when he uncovered a letter tucked away in an old trunk, penned by his mother just days before her death. It claimed that to unlock the truth about the family, one must be willing to sacrifice their mortality, a chilling warning that echoed Victor's caution. Some truths are better left buried. If this was the answer he sought, what would it cost him? Just when the pieces seemed to align, a shattering realization struck him. Each revelation pivoted on a central truth he was too horrified to confront. The message pulsed with malignancy, and before he could fully process it, another phone notification pierced through the silence, bearing the most horrific proclamation yet. You're closer than ever, but don't forget, the past never forgets. As dread cascaded through him, curious eyes wandered to the shadows lurking just beyond the light, leaving David entangled in a snare of fear and anticipation. How deep had he delved into his family's horrific legacy, and could he escape its grasp before it claimed him? As our mystery culminates, one resounding question remains: what is the true cost of unlocking a treacherous past? Just at the threshold of understanding, the screen fades, leaving you gasping for resolution, desperately yearning for answers. With every heartbeat, the anticipation overwhelms, and as the dark labyrinth stretches endlessly before him, David realizes, I know who did it, but the truth will never be told. Would you dare to seek answers, or is ignorance bliss amid shadows lurking in the bounds of your mind? The journey grows darker, and perhaps it's best if some mysteries remain untouched. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today, and where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 4. The Haunting Figure in the Mist. In a world where the dead whisper their secrets through the fog, the moment you turn your back, someone will take your life. That is the curse of the mist, and a new horror awaits. On the outskirts of the quaint village of Scarborough, the dense, eerie mist wrapped the landscape in a suffocating embrace, a veil hiding the sinister truth that lay just beyond the reach of sight. There is a reason why the locals speak in hushed tones about the shadows that drift through the shrouded streets at night. And as Father Brown set out for his evening stroll, he felt an unseen presence lurking just beyond the veil of mist, a weight on his shoulders that hinted at an unsolved mystery that had gripped the town for years. Tonight, an unsettling tension hung in the air like a storm about to unleash its fury. As Father Brown made his way toward the church, the familiar cobblestones echoed under his feet, but their rhythm was disrupted by the sudden crack of a twig snapping somewhere beyond the light. His heart raced. Was it merely the wind, or had he stumbled upon the untold story behind the formless figures seen drifting along the cobblestones? Only last week, a villager had gone missing, their last known whereabouts linked to the very spot where Father Brown stood now. Chilling conversations about a curse connected to the figure seen in the mist consumed the town, a figure reported by several witnesses, yet it remained elusively unexplainable. As he cautiously navigated the rain-slicked path, memories of the missing villagers haunted him. What shocking truth lay buried beneath the surface of this cursed mist? Father Brown shivered as he recalled Mrs. Carrington, a revered elder of the village who had claimed with her last breath that the figure was an omen, a harbinger of the darkness that craved the living as much as the dead. But what could that darkness hope to achieve? Murmurs of jealousy and heartache drifted through the town like the very fog Father Brown sought to navigate, but he knew that the deeper he probed, the more tangled the web of secrets became. As he reached the church's crumbling steps, a flicker of movement caught his eye, drawing him back into the mist. Heart-pounding, he squinted into the dense fog swirling around him. Was that shadow just a trick of the light, or a tangible spectre? The mist parted just enough for him to glimpse a figure, a silhouette clad in tattered grey, eyes that gleamed like chips of ice, daring Father Brown to discover the truth. The weight of centuries-old grievances seemed to pulse with each beat of his heart, yet all was suffocated in the opulent silence of the night. Who was this haunting figure, and what secret compelled them to linger here? A knot of dread twisted in Father Brown's stomach as he stepped deeper into the fog. Suddenly, an icy chill enveloped the space, and he could hear it. Soft whispers swirling through the air, a chorus of lost voices lamenting their fates. Each one spoke of betrayal, unforeseen circumstances, and motives hidden behind butchered trust. How much did the villagers know? The deeper he delved, the more ominous the spectre around him grew, feeding on the fragmented tales and unresolved hatred simmering beneath the idyllic facade of Scarborough. Then, amid the cacophony of murmured voices, a revelation cracked open the veil of mystery. It was a name repeated over and over, like a chant reverberating through the mist. Clara, Clara, Clara. He'd heard that name, mentioned only moments ago, while speaking to the innkeeper, who had brushed off the matter of Clara's disappearance as mere gossip. But the whispers painted a darker picture, one with motives buried deep within the hearts of those who smiled in the daylight. Just as he thought the veil was lifting, a rush of frigid wind hit him, and the mist swirled around him in a frenzy, causing visions of desperate cold eyes to materialize one after another, as if revealing a game of treachery that spanned generations. Father Brown hesitated, grappling with the gnawing realization that trust was as elusive as the very mist surrounding him. Each villager, he now understood, harbored dark secrets, unspoken fears, and motives sinister enough to create a den of deceit. And then it happened. A visceral jolt caught him off guard as the fleeting figure emerged from the fog, advancing toward him with tormented urgency. "Help me!" The voice, both desperate and hollow, broke the aura of tension. But before Father Brown could reach out, the figure dissolved back into the mist, leaving behind an echo that entangled him in confusion and fear. He was left grappling with unanswered questions. What had that figure meant? What had they wanted help with? Was Clara still alive, or had she, like others before her, fallen victim to the shadows lurking within the village's very essence? The urgency of the mystery boiled over as he rushed back, desperate to share this newfound revelation and investigate further. But with each step, trepidation coursed through his veins. Who could he trust? Was the figure an ally or an agent of something more nefarious? The tension spiraled, twisting tighter around Father Brown's heart like the relentless fog itself, as he pieced together the threads of betrayals and the whispers of the mist, shrouded in secrets so dense they could suffocate the living. Just when he thought he had grasped the threads of reality, his pulse quickened. How many names remained, hidden behind the fog, and could he truly solve the enigma of the haunting figure before it swallowed him whole? The answers lay just out of reach, raw, twisted, and ready to be revealed at the horizon of dawn. But in that moment, as shadows seeped back into the mist, Father Brown knew the chilling truth. I know who did it, but the truth will never be told. The weight of that knowledge crushed him under the uncertainty and despair. As he turned to face the dawn breaking over Scarborough, he could only whisper into the abyss, unsure if the figure would return or if he would become yet another whisper lost in the haunting fog. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers haunted Father Brown's dreams. A Father Brown investigation. Hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 5. The Letter that Changed Everything in the Heart of a Stormy Night. As shadows danced mockingly across the walls, a letter arrived at the doorstep of despair, sealed with secrets so dark they could suffocate the living. The moment Elizabeth Wilkins ripped the envelope open, she discovered not just words, but a weight of betrayal that sent tremors through her very being. What was meant to be an ordinary evening spiraled into an intricate web of deceit, unraveling the fragile facade of her seemingly perfect life. The letter bore a name that chilled her to the core. Her sister, Amelia, was alive, but Amelia had been buried for years. How could this be? This revelation set off a cacophony of questions that seemed to echo endlessly, demanding answers from a past Elizabeth had fought so hard to bury. As the chilling rain lashed against her window, Elizabeth felt her heart race. It wasn't just the shock of the letter that rattled her, it was the sudden explosion of memories flooding her mind, of whispered conversations, laughter that once filled their family home, and the dark shadow that followed when Amelia disappeared. The entire town whispered about Amelia's tragic end, and now the spectre of her return clawed at Elizabeth's sanity. With trembling hands, she reread the message, as if certainty might leap from the pages. "Find me before they do," it read, a cryptic urgency that tightened the knot of fear in her stomach. Who was they, and why did they need to be found? The stakes couldn't be higher. Elizabeth's thoughts raced ahead, chasing the specters of her past, mourning an impossible future. But as the clock struck midnight, she knew she couldn't sit idle. There were truths to unearth buried beneath layers of smiles and silence, shadows concealed behind closed doors. The once comforting walls of her home now felt like a prison stitched together by lies. Father Brown, the local priest with uncanny insight into the human soul, entered the scene, drawn into this tangled web of familial chaos. His brow furrowed, knowing too well the depths of despair that accompanied dark family secrets. The atmosphere crackled with tension as he pieced together Elizabeth's frantic story. Yet the more Father Brown delved into the evidence, the deeper the murky waters of mystery became. He discovered that several townsfolk had motives to silence Amelia, whispers tinged with jealousy, betrayal, and the haunting allure of a past that refused to die. But just when the pieces began to fit together, he stumbled upon a chilling photograph buried in an old box in the attic. In it, Amelia stood alongside a group of people, faces distorted with ominous glee, eyes penetrating the depths of the camera like predators. Shadowy figures whispered promises of protection and power, hints at a secret society shrouded in darkness, a revelation that shook his faith in the trustworthiness of the living. Had Amelia truly found a way to escape, or had she willingly plunged into a world darker than anyone could imagine? As these revelations began to bloom, an unexpected visitor arrived, a frail old woman with a trembling voice and a past intertwined with Elizabeth's family. "You have to get out now," she insisted breathlessly, her eyes wide with urgency. "They've come back for what is theirs, and Amelia isn't the only one with a secret." The enormity of her words twisted inside them like a knife, leaving Elizabeth utterly paralyzed by the fear of the unknown. What had her sister done to stir this storm? An ocean of reasons to doubt began to form, unraveling the very fabric of their shared history. Who could be trusted, and what had once felt like anchors of safety now felt like chains dragging them into the abyss? Then, just as the undercurrents of suspense reached their breaking point, the final bombshell was dropped. Amelia had left behind not just the letter, but a time bomb in the form of bank documents. They outlined a fortune that had mysteriously vanished years ago and implicated someone close, someone they could never have suspected. The truths buried within the threads of their family's web were tearing the very fabric of reality apart. Father Brown's voice carried the weight of grief and resolve. "I know who did it, my dear, but the truth will never be told." His words hung like a noose, wrapping Elizabeth in an agonizing squeeze, choking her desire for answers. As the video drew to a close, the anticipation hung thick in the air, a mix of dread and exhilaration. Would Elizabeth find her sister? And more importantly, what other horrors lay hidden in the shadows of an old family tragedy? No one was safe from the fallout of the past. Elizabeth was left grappling with the chilling reality that the truth may be more sinister than she could ever comprehend. The mysteries were far from unraveling, each revelation only leading to deeper confusion and unanswered questions. As the screen faded to black, it left behind a haunting echo. What will happen next? Would you dare to seek the answers? Time to decide. Continue toward the light or dive deeper into the dark chasms of the unknown. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, whispers haunted Father Brown's, dreams of Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 6. A Thief Stalking in Silence. Imagine standing in a dimly lit room, heart racing, as the realization crashes upon you. The one person you trusted most has been stealing from you in the shadows, all while wearing a mask of innocence. This shocking discovery isn't just a betrayal. It's the beginning of something darker, a mystery that spirals out of control with every breath you take. How could it be true? How could deception lurk so close? Tonight we venture into the chilling depths of betrayal that lurk behind every familiar face, diving into the abyss of Chapter 6. A Thief Stalking in Silence. The air in the quaint little village felt thick with tension as Father Brown walked through the cobblestone streets. There was word of strange occurrences, a series of thefts that had bewildered the townsfolk. Each incident appeared utterly disconnected, with different victims, yet all of them spoke of the same unshakable feeling. Someone was watching, someone was planning. What could bind these events together? As Father Brown began to piece the puzzle together, he couldn't shake the gnawing suspicion that the common thread was lurking much closer to him than he ever imagined. The tranquility of the village began to feel like a lie, a facade, hiding something much more sinister. With every clue he unearthed, the sense of danger only intensified. Father Brown discovered that one victim had been robbed of not just material possessions, but secrets that could unravel the very fabric of their lives. The questions laid out like traps, each answer only leading deeper into a labyrinth of deceit. What could drive someone to steal the very essence of another's life? Who would resort to darkness to procure their own light? As the night deepened, the stakes rose dangerously high, yet every revelation revealed more layers, more complexity, sending Father Brown spinning deeper into a web of uncertainty. Then came the first big reveal, a piece of information that sent shockwaves through the village. Perhaps the thief not only stole tangible items, but something even more precious: trust. Eyewitness accounts began to surface, faulty yet fragmented, casting doubt upon familiar faces. The town's beloved doctor, the quiet schoolteacher, or even the kind baker, any could be the thief hiding in plain sight. Just when one thread began to unravel, another would knot tighter, dragging Father Brown into an abyss where clarity was a foreign concept. Could the thief be manipulating the victims into turning against each other, weaponizing their trust? Now, every whispered conversation felt fraught, every glance loaded with suspicion. As the pieces of the puzzle merged together, Father Brown felt the dark shadows of doubt creeping over him, shrouding his instincts in confusion. Paranoia dripped from the walls, and the truth felt like a ghost, there, yet always just out of reach. He began to question everyone. Motives were blurred, and old relationships were strained to breaking points. The innocence of the village was shattering, and amid it all stood Father Brown, grasping at straws, teetering at the precipice of what he believed to be reality. Every time he thought he was nearing an answer, the truth morphed before his eyes, leaving him gasping for clarity. Just then, a voice crept in from nowhere. "Father Brown, I know something you don't," it teased, echoing in the hollow air. It was the voice of a child, innocent, yet somehow sinister in context. The question that fell from those lips was chilling. What if the truth is something we all want to hide? Suddenly, the pieces tumbled back into chaos, and Father Brown realized the depth of the conspiracy stretched deeper than mere theft. Could the village truly bear its secrets, or would they spill out in a cascade of ruin? Now, we reach the cliffhanger that sits at the core of our story. Just as a new revelation began to crystallize in Father Brown's mind, an urgent knock echoed through the silence, cutting through the suffocating tension. Was it a friend, a foe, or perhaps the thief themselves, daring to confront Father Brown face to face? As he turned toward the door, the pieces of this intricate mystery began to align, yet a paralyzing fear held him still. What if the person on the other side of that door had the power to obliterate everything he thought he knew? The night hung heavy with darkness as Father Brown faced the unknown. With uncertainty hanging thick in the air, he murmured to himself, "I know who did it, but the truth will never be told." At that moment, everything collapsed, doubt consuming certainty, leaving only the aching question echoing in the night. How far does betrayal stretch in the shadows of this village? And what if the very answer casts a darkness that could never be illuminated again? In that suspended moment, just before opening the door, Father Brown stood still, overwhelmed and breathless, lost in a mystery that seemed too vast, too intricate to fully grasp. In that lack of resolution, you might find yourself breathless, overwhelmed with too many questions and too few answers. Would you dare to venture further into the depths of this treachery, or has your curiosity dragged you to a precipice too terrifying to confront? The truth awaits, lurking in the dark silence, for those who are courageous enough to take another step forward. Will you brave it, or will the shadows of uncertainty be enough to haunt your thoughts forever? What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 7. Unmasking the Phantom in Shadows. It was a night draped in the veil of secrets, where the whisper of the wind carried an unspeakable truth. The ghostly figure of the phantom had just revealed himself, shrouded in darkness, and it was now evident that he was not alone. As the lights flickered ominously in the old stone manor, a shiver gripped the air, and suddenly reality twisted like a knife. Was the phantom a figment of imagination, or a cunning murderer lurking in plain sight? With every heartbeat echoing in the suspenseful stillness, the allure of this mystery clawed at the minds of those who dared to pursue it. The problem was clear. There had been a string of disappearances in the village, each one seemingly linked to the enigma of the phantom that haunted the shadows of the crumbling estate. Rumors rippled through the community, tales of lost souls and dark rites as Father Brown stepped into the heart of the mystery, burdened by the weight of unsolved crimes that clung to the very walls of the manor. What twisted mind would orchestrate such chaos? As he explored the dimly lit corridors, each creak of the floorboards sounded like whispered confessions begging to be unveiled. But with every clue, the enigma deepened. How could one man, cloaked in myth, hold the power to both terrorize and conceal the truth behind those who vanished without a trace? As Father Brown pressed on, shadows danced mockingly, and he stumbled upon an old diary, its pages yellowing with age but pulsating with dark secrets. Words leapt off the page: clandestine meetings, forbidden love affairs, and chilling accounts of jealousy that could drive a person to madness. Yet, instead of clarity, the revelations only wove a web of confusion tighter than before. Faces that once appeared innocent now seemed to smirk at the reader, as hidden motives twisted their expressions into something sinister. All those involved harbored their own ghosts. Who could he trust? The very essence of fear seeped into Father Brown's resolve, a feeling that not everything was as it appeared, and that justice might lie within a darkness far deeper. In a climactic moment that rattled the very core of the investigation, a neighbor stepped forward. He claimed to have seen something unbelievable, a figure hovering by the woods, cloaked in a familiar garb, perhaps the attire of someone Father Brown had once held dear. This shock sent ripples through the room. The implications were staggering. Had the phantom been someone they all knew, someone who crafted their own darkness while hiding behind a veil of normality? The very foundation of trust began to crumble. Was the elusive phantom actually a puppet master, orchestrating the hauntings and disappearances from the shadows, taking advantage of the very fears he himself had sown? The revelation left viewers reeling, questioning every assumption they had made thus far, every character they had thought to understand. As Father Brown pieced together the grim puzzle, a chilling realization dawned. Each disappearance mirrored a tragic event from the village's dark history. And just as certainty began to form, the final, shattering twist emerged. The diary contained a final entry, hastily scribbled, a frantic plea that scrawled the haunting words, "I know who did it, but should the truth be told?" It was a stark reminder that knowledge comes with its own chains, shackling those who dare to wield it. Who had this horrifying insight, and was it a confession or a curse? The fear and unease pressing down were palpable, leaving viewers breathless, desperate for answers that would elude them. And just when the thrill became overwhelming, when curiosity could no longer contain itself, the scene took a dizzying turn. Father Brown, standing at the crossroads of revelation, faced a dilemma that would shake the roots of justice. "I know who did it," he whispered, his voice laced with both dread and resolve, "but the truth will never be told." With that haunting declaration, one could feel the wheels of intrigue spinning uncontrollably. Who would silence the truth? The answer hung heavy in the air, dense with the weight of uncertainty and unsaid words, enticing viewers to linger on the edge of revelation, yet overcome by the swirling shadows of doubt. The subdued yet intense atmosphere wrapped around the manor like a suffocating shroud, plunging viewers into an abyss of unanswered questions. They could no longer ignore the pulse of the mystery, driving them mad with curiosity. Yet, at the same time, the sheer weight of the unresolved dread left them breathless. Each heartbeat became an echo of inevitability, producing a climactic urge to pause, to stop, for fear that reaching the conclusion would shatter their already fragile grasp on reality. The darkness within and beyond the shadows left a chilling promise. This was only the beginning, and the deeper you went, the more entangled you would become. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams of Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 8. Echoes of the Past. Resound. It was the kind of revelation that hits you like a lightning bolt. A truth so shocking that it fractures the very foundation of everything you thought was real. The murderer you've been seeking has been living among us, not as a ghost, but disguised with a mask of familiarity. As the walls echoed the whispers of the past, you wouldn't know if you were listening to ghosts or merely the shadows of your own haunting memories. The tension in the air hangs heavy, like a thick fog that refuses to lift, obscuring not just visibility, but the very essence of trust. What secrets lay buried, and how deep do the roots of deception run? Father Brown stood at the center of chaos, grappling with the twisted threads of a mystery that seemed nearly impossible to unravel. It started innocently enough, an enigmatic letter slipping beneath his door, inked in a hurried scrawl that bore a warning for the keen observer. "Beware the deceiver," it read, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. Each clue he uncovered spun a web of contradictions that ensnared him deeper into a nightmarish labyrinth. Could he really trust anything or anyone? Even the words of those closest to him echoed with an unsettling undertone. Voices he once respected began to twist into eerie prophecies, sowing doubt like dark seeds in a fertile mind. As Father Brown delved deeper, he realized the shadows held more than just secrets. They were a reflection of suppressed truths, dark motives hidden beneath layers of civility. What started as a straightforward investigation escalated into an abyss of psychological torment. Each suspect he approached wore a mask of deceit, their eyes flickering with fear. Or was it guilt? An unexpected encounter with a mysterious woman led him down an even darker path where past traumas resurfaced, a family torn apart by betrayal, and a friendship that had soured into enmity. Her plea was both a confession and a curse. If you seek the truth, Father, prepare yourself for the unimaginable. Just when the pieces seemed to align, a chilling piece of information emerged that shattered any semblance of clarity. Father Brown learned of an incident, a death cloaked in an accident's guise, that had occurred years ago, yet it had writhed in the dark corners of every suspect's memory. The audacious twist? This single event linked them all, an invisible thread binding their fates together, each one harboring a motive for retribution that spanned decades. With every twist, every revelation, the atmosphere grew thicker, so suffocating that it was as if the air itself was conspiring against him. Who was the real villain in this interminable tale of grief and grotesque manipulation? In the heart of this spiraling mystery, a familiar face, someone he thought he could interpret and trust, revealed an unexpected facet. Could Father Brown be delusional, or had he been too hasty in his judgments? The cryptic symbols etched into every suspect's narrative began spiraling out of control, each interpretation deviating into darker territory. He uncovers hidden diaries, secret rendezvous, and memories steeped in blood, each page revealing truths about betrayal, guilt, and vengeance that cut deeper than knives. Yet with every answer, more questions arose, rendering the narrative dizzying and complex. Faces began to merge, and definitions of right and wrong blurred into shades of gray. Just as he thought he grasped the core of the enigma, a final revelation turned everything he knew on its head. The average townsfolk, the very ones he interacted with daily, were not merely bystanders, but players in a grander game. And one haunting line echoed from the shadows like a ghost's whisper. The true orchestrator remains in plain sight, cloaked in familiarity, and only the bravest will reach beyond the veil. Father Brown stepped back, his heart racing, battling the overwhelming sense of dread that engulfed him. He felt as though he was standing at the edge of an unfathomable truth. Yet, to leap into the abyss would mean confronting demons he wasn't sure he was prepared to face. Was he destined to fall into this research of betrayal, guilt, and the dangerous cycles of history? Or could he still weave a narrative that brought justice rather than a perpetuation of the pain? Just when clarity seemed attainable, a scream pierced the stillness, reverberating through the night. A cry, not just for help, but for salvation. The darkness closed in, and the meeting of past regrets and present horrors collided in spectacular fashion. And then, as abruptly as the storm had risen, it fell silent. Father Brown stood among the ruins of uncertainty, a whisper of accursed truth lingering in the air like a phantom. I know who did it, but the truth will never be told. It was a moment where realization settled in, as the viewer grappled with the staggering weight of that thin line between resolution and complication, shrouded in both dread and anticipation. The game is far from over, and in questioning the essence of truth itself, viewers are left dangling on the precipice, desperate for answers they may be too terrified to uncover. Would the truth set them free, or would it drown them in despair? As Father Brown's silhouette was swallowed by the encroaching darkness, the final thought hung in the air with unbearable suspense. What if the past isn't just an echo, but a relentless pursuer? It beckons us to look back as we're propelled into an uncertain future, leaving viewers gasping for breath and begging to know what lurks just beyond this chasm of truth. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 9. A suspicious alibi shatters trust. Trust is a fragile glass that once shattered cuts deeper than the sharpest blade, a truth that was brutally illustrated when Father Brown discovered a blood-stained letter hidden in the attic of the deceased, which asked the question, who can truly vouch for their innocence when secrets lurk in every shadow? As the fog of doubt crept through the village of St. Mary's, the tangled web of alibis began to unravel, revealing a sinister puzzle where everyone had something to hide, and betrayal was masked with a smile. It all began with a lifeless body found sprawled across the blood-soaked floor of a once cozy home, the air thick with tension. And in the heart of this storm stood Father Brown, determined to piece together the fragments of this twisted tale. But who could you really trust? As Father Brown delved deeper into the lives of the people attached to the victim, it became evident that every alibi was as murky as the darkest corners of the human soul. A wife claiming to be at a charity gala, a friend supposedly on a hiking trip, even a distant relative who was remarkably in town for just a day. Each story intertwined like a treacherous knot. How could their stories all hold water when even the slightest pick could reveal the bitter truth beneath? Each revelation darkened the atmosphere around Father Brown, drawing him further into a realm of confusion where the motives seemed not only personal but deeply psychological, rooted in jealousy, revenge, and desperation. As the investigation spiraled, Father Brown uncovered hidden letters between the victim and a mysterious figure from their past, one that pointed to an affair, a betrayal that would devastate lives and shake the very foundations of trust. He pieced together a timeline, one that seemed too perfect, too false, with eerie coincidences that would make anyone question the integrity of the witnesses. Each twist of the knife sliced deeper, leaving viewers gasping for breath, questioning who was truly innocent and who wore masks layered in deception. Could it have been the husband, lost in a world of bitterness, or the best friend, envious of a happiness forever out of reach? Clarity turned elusive as the truth morphed into shadows, and the puppet strings of fate danced cruelly around those who thought they were safe. As the tension crescendoed, Father Brown stumbled upon another integral piece of the puzzle, a recording from the neighbor's security camera. It captured the moments directly surrounding the murder, but the image it presented was a chilling contradiction. In the grainy footage, the supposed alibis collided, Those who claimed they had been miles away were seen lurking just blocks from the scene, exchanging furtive glances and hurried whispers. The chilling realization shattered the thin veneer of normalcy and pushed Father Brown toward a startling conclusion. The betrayal was not from a single source, but orchestrated by a cabal of the victim's closest kin, all playing their part in a dangerously choreographed dance of deceit. But before he could unmask the conspirators, a thought pierced through the chaos, a question so profound it stilled his heartbeat. What if the true puppet master was the victim themselves? Could it be that the very person who now lay lifeless had manipulated everyone around them, crafting a maze of alibis where they would emerge unscathed? Just as he grasped this horrifying theory, a text message pinged on his phone, sending a jolt of fear through him. It was a message from an unknown number that read, "I know who did it, but you will never find the truth," followed by an ominous laugh that echoed in the silence. Caught between the tumult of revelations and the foreboding risk of further investigation, viewers are left on the brink, unable to fathom the depth of the murky mystery still shrouded in darkness. Just when it seemed there could be no further descent into madness, the camera zooms in on Father Brown's face, his expression a mix of realization and dread. "I know who did it," he utters, his voice barely a whisper echoing through the tumultuous storm of doubt. But the truth, it will never be told. As the screen fades to black, the viewers are left breathless, compelled to question every character, every motive, every twist, directed by a hand unseen. In the depths of their minds lingers the haunting thought, who can you trust when trust itself is just an illusion, fraying at the edges? The real mystery is only just beginning, and the unsettling shadows of doubt are only going to deepen as the story unfolds. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, whispers haunted Father Brown's dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 10. The mysterious disappearance of a priest. A priest vanishing from a locked church on a stormy night. Talk about a recipe for nightmares. But what's more horrifying is the truth may lie not in the shadows of the church, but in the hearts of the congregation. The small, unsuspecting town of Blackwater had always considered its cleric, Father Martin, a beacon of hope. But when his prayers turned to silence, panic crept into the community, and dark secrets bubbled to the surface, tearing at the fabric of their once innocent lives. How could a man devoted to God so suddenly disappear? And what twisted motivation lay behind it? As the townsfolk gathered, whispering in anxious clusters, the air itself seemed charged with an unsettling mystery. Father Brown, a notorious yet compassionate detective, felt the weight of the spirits lingering in the air. Something about the case festered and bubbled to the surface, and he sensed a darkness that went far deeper than just a missing priest. With storm clouds gathering both outside and within the town's troubled souls, the investigation ensued, but with each new piece of the puzzle, Father Brown found himself spiraling deeper into a labyrinth of deception. The townsfolk held secrets, old wounds that had festered over years, hidden manipulations, and betrayals that cast a long shadow over the community. Suspense grew as Father Brown uncovered eerie truths. The first dead end led him to the church's beloved organist, Clara, who had been seen feverishly practicing The night of Father Martin's disappearance. Her frantic notes echoed through the empty halls, leaving some to question whether they were merely echoes of our troubled priest's fate, or harbingers of a greater evil lurking beneath Blackwater's pious facade. Clara implored Brown with tears in her eyes, claiming Father Martin had seen too much, that his soft heart was weighted with dark knowledge. But what did that truly mean? This plea only deepened the mystery, leading Father Brown to probe further into the priest's last days. With every story he heard, every layer he peeled back, the truth grew murkier, making viewers question if the priest had stumbled upon a sinister plot that was brewing among the very people he sought to save. Then came a revelation so shocking that it sent chills down the spines of everyone who heard it. The church's most venerable symbol, a flame-laden candlestick used in countless sermons, had gone missing the same night. A mere artifact turned sinister talisman. Was it merely a respected relic, or could it hold a darker significance? Feelings of dread hung over the town as an unsettling series of events unfolded, one suggestion leading to another, and Father Brown began to suspect that the missing priest's absence was linked to this dark theft. What began as merely a missing person case transformed into something so complex and terrifying that every single soul in Blackwater posed a potential threat. Unease turned into paranoia, and the mere act of trust began to seem like a dangerous game. As Father Brown continued his investigation, he discovered a troubling pattern interwoven within the townsfolk's lives. Each had secrets they believed buried deep, but the arrival of insistent questions forced the truth into the light, only to be met with denial and lies. Could Father Martin have been privy to a dark arrangement, perhaps a conspiracy among his very closest friends? As townsfolk turned on one another, he found himself ensnared in a web of twisting motivations that hinted at a deeper evil. The more he unraveled, the more intricate and perplexing the connections became. With one thread pulled, another tangled even tighter, leaving viewers stunned and questioning everything they had believed. By the time Father Brown stumbled upon the church's hidden cellar, it seemed impossible to piece together the fragments he had collected. Here he found an altar, adorned with that missing candlestick, surrounded by disconsolate figures whispering unholy prayers. The realization smacked him like a thunderbolt. The town's reliance on Father Martin's guidance had turned into something far darker than he could fathom. Their veneration had bred obsession, warped into something hideous, and now Father Martin, either a prisoner to their faith or a martyr for their sins, had become part of their sacrificial rhythm. And just when it felt like clarity was within reach, a final twist unraveled the threads of the mystery when Clara reappeared, her stature defiant and eyes blazing with truth. "I know who did it," she said, her voice low yet resonant, "but it's not enough to tell you the name. You'll never truly understand their reasons." With those words, her inquiry cut through the murky air, raising more questions than answers. What sinister motivation had laid cradle to the chaos? Why would she protect the person behind Father Martin's disappearance? The screen darkens as Father Brown struggles between confronting the truth and preserving the illusion of the town he'd come to know. "I know who did it," he finally murmurs, though the truth lingers on his lips like a poison. But the truth will never be told. And as the screen fades to black, the heart-pounding beat of mystery hangs heavy in the air, leaving viewers mired in uncertainty, desperate to know but overwhelmed by the haunting shadows this mystery casts. What forces truly lie in wait within the heart of Blackwater. The twists may compel them to pause, overwhelmed by the intensity of what they've uncovered, forcing them to grapple with the darkness not only of the priest's vanishing, but within themselves as well. The mystery lingers on, haunting and unresolved, beckoning viewers deeper into the chilling abyss. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 11. The Clue That Led to Chaos. In a quiet village where shadows held their breath, a simple letter unveiled a truth so sinister that it desecrated the very fabric of trust among its residents, an unexpected betrayal lurking behind a facade of innocence. Set against the backdrop of whispering winds and flickering lanterns, the night of the annual harvest festival transformed from a celebration of abundance to a chilling harbinger of chaos. It began as mere rumor, a sordid tale of secret meetings and clandestine promises. But as Father Brown delved deeper, what he unmasked would shake the village to its core. It's a puzzle that appears solvable at a glance, yet each piece leads to more questions than answers. The atmosphere thickened as a once-cherished gathering morphed into an arena of suspicion. Every bright smile, every familiar face began to pale in the glow of concealed motives. Father Brown, with his keen insights and unwavering determination, could sense the tension hanging thick in the air. But as he sifted through the fragments of fragmented lives, he caught a whiff of something far more traumatizing than petty grievances and jealousies. Something darker was at play, threading a web of deceit that ensnared even the most unsuspecting villagers. How could laughter suddenly be accompanied by glances filled with malice? What lay hidden beneath the surface was almost too much for even his seasoned mind to bear. As he navigated the murky waters of betrayal, a chance encounter unearthed a clue that was both a breadcrumb and a headstone, hinting at alliances forged in the shadows. A crumpled business deal found in the pocket of a deceased local reeked of desperation, pointing fingers to individuals whose lives intertwined more intricately than he had presumed. The more he uncovered, the more twisted the trail became. It wasn't just about stolen trust, but something much more petrifying, lives altered permanently by the suffocating grasp of greed and revenge. Who could be so ruthless, and why? With each lead, confidence morphed into sheer dread that even his insatiable curiosity felt the weight of horror. Then came the first jagged reveal, an old hat discovered in a hidden compartment, adorned with a pin that traced back to a figure thought long gone from their small hamlet. The discovery shattered the illusion, leaving discord in its wake. Murmurs cascaded through the village, and trust disintegrated like wisps of smoke. Every word spoken became a weapon, every silence a traitorous act. The revelations felt like shards of glass cutting into the very essence of friendship, leaving wounds too deep to heal. But amidst the dread, an inner voice questioned, was this piece truly the key to unlocking a mystery, or merely a catalyst for more chaos? The answers were blurring in Father Brown's mind, spiraling into a maelstrom of uncertainties. In a final confrontation, sealed by a heartfelt plea for unity, the villagers gathered, hearts pounding, ready for the truth to be unveiled. As Father Brown stood before them, shadows danced ominously in the flickering light, and as he prepared to reveal the truth, a blast of thunder echoed through the night sky. It was the moment that hinged precariously on the edge of revelation. Could he expose the hidden hand that tugged at the strings and drew them into chaos? Or would he, too, become a pawn in this relentless game? One question remained: to confront or to conceal the shocking answer that lay before him. And with that, just as the weight of the truth began to reveal itself, Father Brown paused, casting a glance over the crowd. The room was electric, charged with tension, an air thick with untrustworthy glances and desperate thoughts. "I know who did it," he finally spoke, his voice a low rumble that carried the promise of candor, yet ominously hinted at more shadows lying in wait. But the truth will never be told. The silence that followed suffocated the air, the villagers frozen in uncertainty, paralyzed by the looming question of whether they were prepared to face the darkness staring back at them. The tension held everyone hostage, each heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration, battling an overwhelming desire to know, yet constrained by the paralyzing weight of their own fears. A moment that might define them forever, leaving the truth lingering just out of reach, precariously perched on the knife's edge of revelation. But as the storm raged outside, chaos slipped into the very souls of the villagers, unraveling them in ways even Father Brown had never anticipated. The curtain fell, but the questions lingered, lurking around every corner, an eternity of what-ifs in a world where the clearest answer held the most agonizing secrets. What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Whispers Haunted, Father Brown's Dreams, a Father Brown investigation, hit me up. What made you smile today, and where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 12. Father Brown faces his darkest hour. Chilling echo of a gunshot shattered the stillness of the decrepit manor, heralding a secret so dark it could engulf all who dared to approach, one that had nestled itself in the very heart of Father Brown's faith. As he stumbled into the dimly lit room, his breath coiled in his throat. He was greeted not by the sanctity of a sacred haven, but by the claustrophobic smell of betrayal and despair. What was meant to be a day of reflection had turned, in the blink of an eye, into a grotesque tableau of blood and guilt, one that would push even the kind-hearted priest to the brink of his understanding. Just hours earlier, Father Brown had received a desperate summons from Lady Margaret Pendleton, the embodiment of grace and privilege. She had invited him to her ancestral home under the pretense of a crisis of conscience, a plea for guidance that hinted at deep-seated secrets. Little did he know, the ornate chandeliers illuminating her opulent drawing room cast shadows on truths far more sinister than mere family disputes. Stripped of their glittering facades, the Pendleton family was a nest of entangled alliances, hidden scandals, and haunting retributions. As Father Brown sat with them, an unshakable tension draped over the conversations, leaving him feeling like an interloper in their suffocating web of deceit. The air grew thick with an eerie stillness when Lord Pendleton revealed his dark suspicions. His eldest son, Edward, had been lurking in the shadows, always watching, always waiting. A family member with a propensity for secrets would stir paranoia, especially with whispers of a hidden will surfacing, one that could harvest fortunes and ruin lives. As they spoke, dark glances ricocheted off the walls, and Father Brown understood one crucial fact. This was not simply a crisis of conscience, it was a powder keg ready to explode. But what was fueling the chaos? Was it greed, revenge, or something even darker, hidden behind layers of well-guarded facades? As the evening dragged on, the priest slipped from room to room, absorbing the history that clung to the air like stale perfume. Each family member was a piece on a chessboard, strategically positioned but perilously close to each other's lethal moves. The realization began to sink in. Connections ran deeper than blood, and loyalties twisted in unexpected ways. Just when Father Brown thought he had some semblance of understanding, he uncovered a hidden room filled with personal letters, a treasure trove of love affairs, betrayals, and dark confessions that threatened to unmask the entire family history. Like a disheveled puzzle tossed carelessly onto the floor, each fragment revealed more about their twisted dynamics than Father Brown had prepared for. He felt the weight of the past pressing tightly against his chest, churning with the potential for explosive revelations. And then it happened, like the opening of a dam. An undeniable truth slammed against him. The gunshot was not an accident, but a deliberate act of chaos. Who had fired it in such a desperate moment? Was it Edward, trying to protect or silence his father? Or was it Lady Margaret, lashing out against the betrayals of past affairs? With the pieces ascending into a whirlwind of confusion, Father Brown discovered something he hadn't foreseen. A network of children born out of wedlock, snares laid long before tonight, and whispers of dark contracts made in blood. Everyone in the Pendleton household had their own turmoil, and now that storm was poised to break, the once majestic walls began to teem with the resonant memories of a haunted family, drowning Father Brown deeper into a mystery that felt poised to consume him whole. As if playing chess against a troop of invisible players, Father Brown's latest deductions spiraled outward. The mysterious letters hinted not only at motive, but also implicated every single family member lining the grand hall. In his mind, several shocking possibilities gestated. Some were undeniably guilty, while others held secrets potent enough to destroy everything they held dear. Just as he reached out to piece everything together, a maniacal laugh echoed from the shadows, pulling him into an abyss of uncertainty. Could the walls even trust each other enough to reveal their secrets? Or were they bound by an unspeakable pact that could erase everything in an instant? It wasn't until the clock struck midnight that Father Brown uncovered the final, bone-chilling secret of the Pendleton legacy. It involved a pact sown in desperation, one in which the true culprit was both predator and prey, someone who had walked the halls filled with whispers and memories, sharing bread while sharing blood. As the last vestiges of loyalty began to shatter under the weight of revelation, Father Brown found himself tangled in the complexity of human emotions that threatened to plunge him back into a pit of chaotic doubt. The sensation of an invisible knife grazed his senses as he held his breath, grappling with the thought, what if the killer was among the innocent? With every suppressed truth aching to spill forth, Father Brown stood frozen within the intertwining shadows, suspended between what he could reveal and what was better left buried. "I could tell you who did it," he confided into the suffocating darkness, but the truth of it all may never be told. And with that between them, the question lingered airlessly, leaving a chasm too profound to bridge. In the depths of Father Brown's thoughts, a chilling realization dawned. Whatever path lay ahead was riddled with uncertainties that could unravel everything. As viewers, we stand on the precipice with him. How far will we dive into this dark mystery for the pure pursuit of truth? But be wary, for in the search for clarity, the very concept of trust itself may become the deepest mystery of them all.